Hey guys, tonight we're going to drift back to the very beginning of cities, to a time when humanity was just learning what it meant to live together, to build walls, and to make neighborhoods where everyone could argue over who forgot to fetch the water or who hogged the grain. It's a calm triptych, ancient and perfectly peaceful. You feel the nighttime settling around you as the world grows quiet, the crickets humming like tiny guardians of the dark, and the wind moving lazily through the uneven mud-brick walls. Your mind slowly loosens its grip on the day, letting the weight of modern worries drift away as you imagine footsteps echoing softly across streets that have not felt a human presence for thousands of years. Somewhere above, stars scatter across the sky like powdered silver, and the moon spills gentle light on what remains of courtyards and homes, bathing broken pottery and half-buried hearths in quiet luminescence. Even the air seems to hold its breath in reverence for the long, patient passage of time. You step forward, brushing the sand from a narrow path between leaning walls, feeling the rough texture of ancient bricks beneath your fingers, warm from the day and cool from the night. Tiny shards of pottery crunch under your feet as you walk, reminders of breakfasts forgotten and hands that shaped clay with care thousands of years ago. You probably wouldn't survive here for long. No running water, no modern comforts, and certainly no soft mattress to sink into. But tonight you are a visitor, safe and quiet, moving gently through the memories of a world that once teemed with life. A soft smile comes to your lips as you imagine children laughing across courtyards, someone tending goats, someone else spinning thread for clothes, and a faint argument over the morning's bread. Even the smallest gestures feel profound in this stillness, and for a moment you're suspended in the soft pulse of ancient daily life, watching civilization being written one ordinary act at a time. Dust drifts lazily in the thin shafts of moonlight, floating through doorways like ancient ghosts, yet everything feels alive with memory. Ahead, you notice the outline of a slightly larger structure, perhaps a temple, or maybe an early administrative hall. Its stones standing stubbornly against the years, stubborn as the people who built them. Inside, the floor is cool and smooth underfoot, and you kneel, brushing your hand over faint carvings that twist and curl like forgotten stories. The air smells faintly of earth and stone, carrying the quiet weight of countless mornings and evenings, of meals prepared and hands folded in rest. Somewhere deep in your mind, a tiny piece of humor surfaces. This ancient office may have been the earliest version of arguing over paperwork, lists of sheep, grain, and taxes, recorded in clay tablets instead of spreadsheets, and yet it feels entirely familiar. Archaeologists still wonder how many other settlements like this disappeared without leaving a trace, buried beneath dunes, riverbeds, and centuries of drift, waiting patiently to be discovered, barefoot and curious. and curious in pets by a persitua per it is a perso so is per by it was so it be a genitive pick whip the tip to whip a book wick I'm up but wit that to you it twisted vivid to you of pick up word that you the buck you have been we just part do times be devil it was a day you I would a day to be familiar instead the familiar you rise and continue along a narrow passage, your footsteps muffled by fine sand, the city unfolding slowly like a memory unrolling itself in real time. A broken staircase spirals upward, leading to rooftops where families once watched stars, traced constellations, and whispered stories to one another, stories that might never have survived except in the gentle echoes that brush against your ears tonight. Small details catch your attention, the gentle curve of a wall, a faded smear of ochre paint, the way the bricks have been shaped by centuries of wind and sun, and you feel the tiniest thrill of connection. Someone lived here, someone argued, laughed, loved, worked, rested, and while their names are lost, their presence lingers, almost tangible, in the way the night settles over these ruins, a soft blanket over the bones of civilization. In the center of the ruins, you find a small, open plaza, circular stones worn smooth under centuries of foot traffic. Moonlight spills over the platform, and you step onto it, feeling a faint vibration not of the earth, not a sound, but the memory of countless footsteps that once crossed this same spot. Traders, neighbors, children, elders all, moving through the rhythms of early city life. The first hum of society, gently pulsing through the space. You imagine the first beer halls, the soft laughter, and perhaps the earliest gossip that ever existed, echoing faintly in this silent place. Tiny shards of turquoise and clay catch your eye, treasures once loved, now half buried in sand, and you tuck them gently into a small crevice, returning them to the patient embrace of the earth. The night grows deeper, stars shifting slowly overhead as though keeping time for the ruins below. And you walk along the outer edges of what once was a vibrant neighborhood. Dust drifts across your feet, the faint scent of earth and stone comforting you as you move. You pause to let your senses drink in the quiet, the smooth texture of mud bricks, the faint hum of insects, the soft wind through empty doorways. Somewhere in the distance, a fragment of pottery hints at a meal shared long ago, laughter echoing faintly in the void. You feel small, but not alone, suspended in the long memory of humanity, connected to the first sparks of civilization in a way that is at once intimate and timeless. A gentle reminder that life, curiosity, and dreams have always existed in places like these. You wander slowly, leaving behind a flat, fertile plain where early settlements once clustered like quiet stars on a dark sky. The sand underfoot is fine and soft, almost powdery, carrying the faint scent of wet earth and distant clay. As you move along, the distant sound of flowing water, or perhaps just your imagination, brings a calm rhythm to your steps, a heartbeat of the land that has watched millennia pass. In your mind, you see small boats moored along the shore, paddles rising and falling, traders balancing baskets of grain, and children laughing while trying to catch tiny fish slipping between their fingers. There's a gentle humor in imagining someone 7,000 years ago grumbling because their canoe keeps tipping over, spilling a morning's worth of catch, while the river carries on, unconcerned and eternal. The plain opens wider as you continue, and you notice the faint remains of long-forgotten canals. They twist and turn in patterns that only the earliest engineers could have imagined, carrying water to crops and to homes, a subtle reminder that civilization was always a mixture of creativity and stubborn problem-solving. You kneel for a moment and let your hand trace the outline of a channel, imagining the hands that dug it, the sweat that dripped into the soft soil, and the laughter of neighbors working together under a sun they couldn't pause. Some of these canals are still visible as depressions in the earth, tiny scars of human ingenuity, and they feel oddly alive, like veins that once pulsed with life and now beat quietly beneath the surface. You probably wouldn't have survived this world without patience, without understanding the river's moods, without learning to live in rhythm with the slow pulse of nature itself. A low mound rises nearby, the remains of what might have been a communal gathering place. Its stones arranged carefully and now partially swallowed by sand. You climb onto it gently, feeling the rough edges beneath your fingers, and pause to look across the plain. The wind carries tiny grains of dust across your cheeks, shimmering faintly in the moonlight, and you breathe slowly, letting the weight of centuries settle around you. Imagine standing here when the first farmers brought their harvests to trade, negotiating quietly in a language almost forgotten, or maybe singing softly to keep count of baskets. Archaeologists still wonder whether this mound was a marketplace, a temple, or a hybrid of both, and there's something comforting in not knowing, in letting the mystery float in the cool night air as you watch the land stretch toward the horizon. Your steps take you to a grove of ancient trees that somehow survived the passing millennia, their roots deep in the soil that has witnessed countless floods and dry seasons. The rough bark presses gently into your palms as you pass by, grounding you in the slow, deliberate rhythm of time. Tiny insects hum faintly at your feet, and somewhere overhead an owl drifts silently, the wings whispering against the leaves. It's almost funny to imagine the first humans here trying to count the trees or measuring their shadows, arguing whether one tree was better than another, or which spot made the best shade for weaving baskets. Life here was simple, yet profound. Every small act part of the slow construction of culture, community, and quiet understanding of the land they depended on. Across the grove, you spot a small pond, shimmering like molten silver in the moonlight. Its surface is perfectly still, reflecting stars and the silhouettes of reeds swaying gently with the breeze. You kneel by the edge and trace patterns in the soft mud, imagining the children of this ancient world doing the same, playing quietly, perhaps drawing symbols that would later inspire early writing systems. Some of these symbols have survived, etched in clay or carved in stone, hints of stories and transactions and prayers that are only partially understood today. You smile at the thought that even the smallest markings can ripple across time, and that a child's playful scratch could one day become part of the human record, quietly shaping what comes after. The night grows deeper, and you feel a slow breeze rising from the river, brushing the plain and carrying the scent of wet earth and distant stone structures. You walk along the water's edge, the river whispering in a language you almost understand, speaking of floods that buried towns, of fish that sustained life, and of the constant patience of the land. Tiny shells and stones crunch under your feet, reminders of the creatures that lived alongside humans, the companions of civilization that never made it into our histories. You realize how delicate and fleeting early settlements must have been, yet they endured long enough to plant the seeds of cities, communities, and technologies that continue to echo in the very rivers and groves you now wander. You wander along the edge of a high plateau, the wind soft against your skin, carrying the scent of distant stone and dry earth. Below you, valleys stretch into shadows, the faint outline of riverbeds winding like silver threads through the darkened land. The remnants of early settlements cling to terraces, terraces carved carefully into the rock by hands you can almost feel, weathered and patient, shaping the landscape with a kind of quiet stubbornness that only centuries can teach. Dust drifts lazily across your path, settling on uneven stones and half-buried hearths, and you pause, letting your fingers brush the rough surface, tracing patterns left by people who lived long before the idea of history had even been named. Somewhere in your mind, a small smile forms at the thought that the first architects of these terraces probably complained endlessly about gravity, the stubbornness of rocks, and the occasional goat who thought a foundation was a perfect place to nap. As you move along the plateau, the silhouettes of abandoned homes appear, their mud brick walls crumbling slowly under the patient passage of time. You step into one carefully, the floor cool beneath your bare feet, and let your eyes adjust to the dim glow spilling from the open doorway. Inside, faint scratches and carvings trace the stories of daily life, the making of bread, the care of animals, and perhaps a child's attempt at recording the day's events. There's a gentle humor in imagining that even back then someone might have rolled their eyes at the way another person stacked firewood or arranged pottery, not so different from your own small frustrations today. You kneel to brush away sand from a corner and uncover tiny shards of painted clay. The colors faded, but still hinting at art, decoration, and a quiet desire to leave something lasting. Archaeologists still wonder whether these shards were purely decorative, talismans of protection, or something else entirely, and the ambiguity adds to the magic of standing here, feeling the echoes of human creativity suspended in time. Stepping back outside, the air feels cooler, carrying whispers of wind from distant valleys. You wander toward a steep incline, noticing indentations in the stone that suggest paths walked for generations. The incline leads you to a small platform, perhaps once a lookout or a gathering place, where the earliest people of this region watched clouds drift across the horizon and the sunlight scatter across valleys. You imagine someone kneeling here centuries ago, counting shadows, listening to the distant river, and thinking about crops, rainfall, and neighbors. There's something comforting in the thought that while we now measure the world with technology and machines, they measured it with patience, observation, and quiet reflection. Their methods humble yet precise. A fragment of humor drifts into your mind. Perhaps someone here was the original meteorologist, predicting storms by watching birds and clouds, and failing spectacularly at least half the time. Continuing along the plateau, your attention is drawn to a cluster of stones arranged in circles, faintly suggestive of ceremonial spaces. You step closer, feeling the smoothness of the stones beneath your fingertips, worn over centuries of feet passing carefully, perhaps in ritual or in daily practice. The wind stirs sand into gentle spirals, and the silence here is profound, broken only by your own slow breath and the occasional rustle of small animals unseen. You consider the possibility that these stones were markers of seasons, calendars etched into the earth to track the slow march of time, or perhaps the remnants of a gathering place where stories, songs, and debates flowed freely. It's impossible to know exactly what these early people intended, yet the very act of standing here in quiet reflection connects you to the patience, curiosity, and ingenuity that shaped human experience in ways that still ripple through our lives today. A sudden shaft of moonlight catches your eye, illuminating a shallow cavity in the stone, a small hollow that may once have held water or offerings. You crouch beside it, noticing faint streaks of mineral deposits along the sides, proof of repeated use over decades or centuries. The thought of someone carefully filling it, cleaning it, or leaving tiny gifts inside brings a soft smile to your lips, and you realize that even the smallest gestures echo across time, tiny ripples that survive long after the hands that made them are gone. Somewhere in the distance, a nocturnal bird calls softly, its voice carrying across the plateau and mingling with your own quiet thoughts. The contrast of permanence and fleetingness, stones enduring, people moving, actions fading, creates a rhythm you can feel in your chest, like a heartbeat of history itself. The plateau begins to slope downward, and you follow a narrow path toward a cluster of ruins that might have been a small fortress or communal building. The walls are jagged, broken by time, yet the careful alignment of stone still hints at intention and skill. You brush sand from a low doorway and step inside, feeling the cool embrace of shadow as the night deepens around you. The interior is small, intimate, and filled with faint traces of human life. A stone ledge that may have served as a bed, a depression in the floor that held storage, and faint charcoal marks that suggest fire and warmth. You can almost hear the soft laughter of people long gone, the quiet hum of conversation, the exchange of news about harvests, weather, and neighbors. The space feels alive with memory, the kind of living history that exists not in books or tablets, but in the echoes embedded in stone and dust. Moving on, you discover a series of shallow steps leading to another level, perhaps once an upper terrace where elders could observe the land. You ascend slowly, feeling the weight of centuries under your feet, and pause at the top to look out over the surrounding valleys. The moonlight casts long shadows across stone and sand, highlighting contours and textures that would have guided the first architects and farmers here. You notice the faint outlines of furrows in the soil, remnants of early agriculture, and imagine someone kneeling to inspect their crops, counting leaves and grains, calculating seasons in a way that feels almost sacred in its precision. Archaeologists still debate whether these terraces were primarily agricultural or defensive, and perhaps they served both purposes at once. There's something quietly amusing in thinking that humans have always multitasked, farming, protecting, and gossiping simultaneously, even thousands of years ago. A narrow path takes you toward a small cave etched into the cliffside, its entrance just wide enough to slip inside. You crouch low and let your eyes adjust to the near darkness, feeling the cool stone pressed gently against your palms. Inside, faint scratches and symbols trace the wall's rudimentary forms of early writing, possibly messages, stories, or simple markings to track time and events. You can't decipher the symbols, of course, and that's exactly the point. There's something deeply soothing about not knowing, about leaving space for imagination to wander. Perhaps a child scratched them absent-mindedly, or a wise elder marked a ritual, or maybe they were warnings about the weather or the river's moods. The ambiguity allows you to breathe into the mystery, letting the quiet curiosity of millennia mingle with your own thoughts as you sit in stillness, suspended between past and present. Emerging from the cave, the wind brushes past, carrying the faint scent of damp stone and distant earth. You follow a gentle slope downward to a hidden terrace where a few partially buried tools lie, remnants of work done centuries ago. Flint blades, tiny pottery fragments, and a broken spindle whisper stories of survival, craft, and daily life. You pick up a shard, feeling its smoothness and the faint warmth retained from the sun long ago, and imagine the hands that shaped it. Perhaps someone argued over whose turn it was to grind grain, or laughed at a pottery mishap, or debated the merits of different weaving techniques. There's a quiet joy in picturing these small human dramas, familiar and timeless, echoing softly across the plateau as you carry their memory in your mind. The night grows heavier, but your pace slows, as if the land itself wishes you to linger. You wander along terraces, cliffs, and river valleys, noting how every ridge, every stone, and every hollow seems imbued with intention, patience, and quiet persistence. The air is alive with faint sounds, rustling leaves, distant water, nocturnal creatures, but all in perfect harmony, as if the world itself is exhaling slowly, inviting you to match its rhythm. Somewhere, a faint owl's call punctuates the stillness, a reminder that even in the deepest night, life continues in subtle ways. You walk carefully, letting your senses drink in every texture, every sound, every faint shimmer of moonlight across stone, and the slow rhythm of your own breathing begins to match the heartbeat of the plateau, slow, steady, and timeless. You pause at the edge of a gently sloping hill where the first rays of dawn have not yet reached, and imagine standing here thousands of years ago. Families spread blankets of reeds. Children chase each other around terraces. Someone hums a tune to remember the day's work, and elders sit quietly, observing and guiding. The plateau feels alive with possibility, the subtle pulse of human ingenuity and curiosity, reminding you that the foundations of civilization were laid quietly, patiently, and persistently over countless nights like this one. You inhale slowly, letting the weight of history settle into your chest, feeling both small and intimately connected to the long story of humanity. You descend from the high plateau into a gently rolling valley, where the grass sways faintly in the cool night breeze, and the distant outline of mountains frames the horizon. The valley feels ancient, as if it has absorbed the stories of countless generations. Each layer of soil holding secrets, waiting for patient eyes to uncover. You walk slowly, letting the soft crunch of dry earth beneath your feet become a rhythm that matches your own heartbeat. Tiny streams whisper their way across the land, the water catching moonlight in fleeting glimmers that remind you of the first humans who relied on these veins of life for drinking, cooking, and tending animals. It's almost funny to imagine someone centuries ago arguing over which path to the stream was best, or losing a sandal in the mud while chasing a goat, the river's silent witness to both frustration and laughter. A cluster of low hills rises nearby, their slopes dotted with the remnants of early dwellings, some half buried by soil and centuries of wind. You trace the outlines with your eyes, imagining families carefully selecting each stone, mud brick, and reed for their homes, balancing comfort with necessity. The air carries the faint scent of dry clay, mingled with the sharp temps of distant herbs growing wild in the valley. As you step over broken pottery and scattered tools, you imagine someone here attempting to measure time, perhaps scratching marks on stone or clay to track the cycles of sun and rain, the beginning of calendars that would guide generations to come. Archaeologists still wonder if some of these early homes were purely domestic spaces or also served ceremonial purposes, and you smile softly at the idea that even millennia ago, humans were multitasking, living and marking life simultaneously. Further along the valley, you find the faint traces of pathways, worn smooth by countless footsteps, leading to what may have been communal spaces. You wander along these paths, feeling the subtle rise and fall beneath your feet, imagining gatherings where stories were told, songs hummed, and perhaps the earliest forms of governance quietly unfolding. The wind drifts across open fields, carrying the faintest hint of dust from distant hills, and you pause to close your eyes, letting the night settle over your shoulders. It's almost like stepping into a living memory, where you can hear laughter, feel the sun's warmth long gone, and sense the quiet pulse of a community moving in harmony with the land. You imagine the minor disputes that must have arisen: who tends the animals first, whose turn is it to grind grain, but all resolved with patience, compromise, and a quiet rhythm now only traceable in the layout of stones and the curves of earth. You wander toward a shallow depression where a small pond once mirrored the sky. The water has long since dried, but the earth retains a subtle coolness, hinting at the life it once held. You kneel to brush your fingers through the soil, imagining children dipping their hands, drawing symbols, or counting pebbles to amuse themselves. Perhaps an elder taught lessons here, pointing out patterns in the clouds or stars, explaining which plants could be eaten and which were to be avoided. You smile softly at the thought that these early humans, though so distant, were quietly brilliant, solving daily problems with a mix of intuition, observation, and trial-and-error ingenuity. Even in this simple pond, there's a richness to life, a complexity you sense more than see, and a feeling that the smallest acts, the planting of a seed, the carving of a symbol, the sharing of water are the true foundations of civilization. A series of shallow mounds catches your eye, each one slightly higher than the last, their purpose a mystery that tugs gently at your curiosity. You walk among them, letting your hands brush the rough soil, imagining each mound as a record of human activity, perhaps a burial, a storehouse, or a ceremonial marker. The air carries the faint hum of nocturnal life, and you almost expect to hear whispers of the past blending with the wind. Archaeologists debate endlessly about these mounds, speculating on their purposes, the people who built them, and the rituals performed. Standing there, you understand that some mysteries are meant not to be solved quickly, but savored slowly, like the subtle layering of time that blankets the valley in a quiet patience. The night deepens, and you follow a gentle slope leading to an ancient grove of trees, their trunks wide and gnarled, their branches casting intricate shadows across the ground. The scent of leaves and damp earth fills your senses, grounding you in the present while simultaneously stretching your imagination across millennia. You pause beneath one tree, feeling the rough bark press into your palms, imagining someone centuries ago resting here, leaning back against the trunk, gazing at the stars and contemplating the mysteries of life and survival. Perhaps they pondered the river, the hills, and the pathways between, weighing decisions as simple as what to plant next season, or as profound as how to pass stories to the next generation. A faint chuckle rises in your mind at the thought that someone might have scolded a sibling or argued over food allocation, and yet these small dramas, like everything else, are now absorbed into the patient calm of the night. You notice faint traces of a road, a flattened path where feet, animals, and carts have traveled across centuries. You follow it slowly, listening to the soft crunch of soil and stones, imagining merchants transporting goods, neighbors visiting friends, and children darting ahead, laughing and slipping in the dust. The path curves toward a small rise where a communal space may have existed, stones arranged in orderly patterns, evidence of thoughtful planning and a desire for shared life. Moonlight drifts across the ruins, casting long, slow shadows that merge with the contours of the land, and you pause to breathe deeply, letting the rhythm of ancient footsteps echo in your mind. Every crack, every depression, every mound in this space carries memory, and standing there, you sense the continuity of life, stretching from the earliest settlements to the present moment you inhabit. A gentle stream crosses the valley, and you pause to watch its water glint faintly in the moonlight, imagining it as it once was, a lifeline for early farmers, a playground for children, and a source of quiet inspiration for those who walked its banks. Tiny shells and pebbles catch your attention, and you crouch to examine them, letting your imagination wander to the people who once fished, washed, or rested beside this same stream. Perhaps someone carved small marks in stone to track the rising waters, or painted symbols on pottery to honor the river's generosity. Archaeologists still debate the true scale of these early settlements, how much they relied on the streams, and how the rhythms of nature shaped social life. There is a gentle amusement in realizing that some of the same human tendencies, counting, marking, planning, persist across millennia, quietly connecting you to the first riverbank communities. The valley stretches wider as you wander onward, dotted with subtle mounds, stone alignments, and depressions hinting at homes, workshops, and gathering spaces. Dust drifts over your feet, settling on the remnants of walls and floors, and the night sky reflects faintly in the smooth surfaces of scattered pottery. You pause to lie down briefly, letting the soft earth mold beneath your body, imagining the stars above as they appeared centuries ago. The constellations are unchanged, a silent witness to the unfolding of civilization, the rise and fall of early cities, and the patient, persistent heartbeat of human curiosity. Somewhere far off, a nocturnal bird calls, a faint reminder that life continues in small, subtle ways, even in places that appear long abandoned. You feel both small and connected, a visitor in a world that has endured, carrying the whispers of countless generations in its quiet pulse. You rise from the soft earth and continue along the valley, noticing how the shadows of trees stretch long and thin across the ground, mingling with the faint outlines of walls and hearths. Each stone seems to hum with the memory of hands that placed it, adjusted it, or stumbled over it while building homes and communal spaces long ago. You pause to run your fingers over a rough-edged brick, feeling the warmth it still retains from a sun that rose centuries before your time. Somewhere in your mind, you imagine someone arguing over which brick belonged where, or laughing at a goat that wandered too close to a drying clay pot. The small absurdities of human life resonate across time, reminding you that humor and ingenuity have always traveled hand in hand. Further along, the valley narrows, forming a gentle canyon where wind whistles softly through the rocks. You step carefully along the edges, noticing faint etchings on stone surfaces, perhaps marks left by early humans, counting days, recording events, or simply doodling out of boredom. The presence of these small, intimate traces of life makes you smile. Somewhere along these cliffs, children might have leaned over ledges to see fish darting in pools below. Someone else might have balanced precariously on rocks while retrieving firewood, and elders surely walked the paths repeatedly, silently guiding and observing. Archaeologists still debate the purpose of many such marks, and you find comfort in letting the mystery remain, like a whispered secret carried gently on the wind. A soft rustle draws your attention to a nearby grove of reeds, gently bending in the night breeze. You step closer, the faint crunch of dry earth and fallen leaves underfoot, mixing with the whisper of water in hidden streams. Here, long ago, someone might have set up a small workshop, grinding grains, weaving reeds into mats, or shaping clay into vessels for cooking. You imagine the scent of wet earth mixed with faint smoke from small fires, and the quiet laughter or soft sighs of those tending to daily life. There's a gentle humor in picturing someone dropping a tool into the water, grumbling softly, and retrieving it with a patience you can almost feel yourself adopting in the stillness. The valley widens again, revealing scattered mounds and depressions that hint at early storage sites or perhaps communal gathering areas. You walk among them, letting your hands brush over the stones and soil, imagining hands that packed grain, arranged food, or marked boundaries for trade and ceremony. Dust drifts softly over your feet, illuminated by moonlight, and you notice tiny fragments of pottery that sparkle faintly in the quiet dark. You pick one up briefly, feeling its smooth surface and faint warmth, imagining the person who shaped it carefully, hoping it would serve their family or community well. Even the smallest objects carry stories, and you feel a deep connection to these silent, persistent echoes of early human life. As you continue, a gentle rise leads you to a shallow ridge overlooking the valley. From here, the landscape stretches endlessly, soft hills fading into the darkness. You pause to breathe slowly, letting your chest rise and fall in rhythm with the subtle whisper of wind across the valley. The terraces and mounds below seem alive with memory, faintly pulsing with the footsteps, laughter, and work of countless generations. You imagine someone long ago sitting here, perhaps sketching patterns in the dirt, marking symbols that might later evolve into written language, and even arguing with a neighbor about the right way to orient a house or plant a field. The timelessness of these small moments wraps around you like a blanket, gentle and grounding. A quiet creek appears, winding softly between low hills, reflecting moonlight in delicate ripples. You step closer and imagine it filled with lifelong ago children playing, elders collecting water, fish darting through the cool currents. Small pebbles glint under your fingers as you kneel to touch the water's edge, thinking about the intimacy of daily life and the simple pleasures and challenges that early humans encountered. Perhaps someone left tiny carvings in the stone to track seasons, record events, or mark a personal milestone. You smile at the idea that even small gestures like these ripple through time, connecting the present to the past in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. The night deepens, and you follow the creek to a slightly elevated terrace where the foundations of homes and workshops remain partially intact. The air carries the scent of wet stone and distant earth, and you take a slow, grounding breath. Each structure seems to tell a story. The careful arrangement of stones, the subtle wear patterns, and even the occasional collapse of a wall speak to daily life, adaptation, and the passage of years. You imagine neighbors quietly debating how best to repair a roof, sharing news about crops, or offering advice on the best methods for storing grain. There's a soft humor in picturing these early meetings unfolding in ways not so different from your own mundane routines, underscoring the timelessness of human community. Further along the terrace, faint remnants of circular spaces suggest ritual or communal gathering areas. You step gently among them, feeling the smoothness of worn stone beneath your fingertips. The air carries a subtle hum, almost imperceptible, that you imagine as the echoes of early songs or chants, or the gentle murmur of people sharing stories, wisdom, or advice. Perhaps a child carved a small figure in a corner, or an elder etched patterns to mark important events. Archaeologists still debate the exact functions of many of these spaces, but there's beauty in letting the unknown linger, in accepting that some questions are meant to remain unanswered, carried softly through the ages. A gentle slope leads you to a small grove of trees, gnarled and ancient, their roots gripping the earth with quiet resilience. You pause to rest beneath one, feeling the rough bark against your palms and inhaling the scent of leaves and soil. You imagine the first humans here resting similarly, perhaps reflecting on the day's labor, gazing at stars, or sharing stories with one another. The subtle rhythm of life work, rest, observation, and laughter feels timeless in this grove, and the night seems to stretch slowly, comfortably across the land. You sense the continuity of experience, the thread connecting those who lived here millennia ago to the present, and feel a quiet comfort in the enduring presence of human curiosity and persistence. Walking on, you come across a small depression that may have been a storage pit or hearth, its edges softened by centuries. You crouch beside it, brushing away fine dust and feeling the warmth that sunlight retained long ago in the surrounding stones. Perhaps a family gathered here to cook, eat, or craft tools, the air filled with faint smoke and gentle conversation. Somewhere deep in your imagination, you picture someone dropping a small item, perhaps a fragment of clay or a tiny tool, muttering softly in frustration or amusement, reminding you that daily life, in all its simplicity and minor frustrations, has always been remarkably human. The subtle remnants speak quietly to you, and you feel the rhythm of human life stretching backward across time, gentle and unhurried. A narrow path takes you along the edge of the terrace, where faint signs of animal enclosures and garden plots hint at the careful planning required to sustain life. You walk slowly, letting your hands brush over low stone walls, imagining someone long ago arranging them meticulously, perhaps arguing with a sibling or neighbor about proper alignment. Dust drifts in soft clouds, illuminated by moonlight, and the faint hum of nocturnal creatures provides a gentle soundtrack to your wandering. Each footprint you leave feels light, almost reverent, as though you are treading in harmony with countless generations that moved this same soil, creating, nurturing, and adapting to the rhythms of life. The moon has shifted higher, casting long, soft shadows across the terrace, illuminating pottery fragments and worn stones that bear witness to centuries of human activity. You pause to lie down on the soft earth, feeling it mold gently to your form, and let your eyes wander across the valley. The stars twinkle like scattered seeds, and the quiet pulse of life seems to echo faintly beneath your body. You imagine generations watching these same constellations, marking seasons, predicting weather, and sharing stories under identical skies. The awareness that human curiosity and ingenuity have always coexisted with patience and observation fills you with a subtle, calming joy, like the gentle hum of a lullaby carried across millennia. You wander into a low valley where the first whispers of civilization seem to rise gently from the earth itself. The ground is soft with sediment, carrying the faint aroma of ancient riverbeds and the subtle Thames of clay long dried in the sun. Tiny insects hum quietly, almost imperceptibly, their small lives weaving a gentle soundtrack that blends with your own slow, deliberate breathing. As you step carefully over scattered fragments of stone and pottery, you imagine the earliest inhabitants bustling about, balancing baskets of grain, repairing walls, and exchanging soft-spoken words over morning fires. There is a quiet humor in picturing someone trying to teach a child to carry water without spilling it, the child inevitably laughing at the inevitable mess, a scene unchanged by millennia. The valley opens to reveal faint outlines of dwellings, their foundations barely rising above the earth, yet speaking volumes about the care and skill invested in early architecture. You brush your fingers over the rough surfaces, tracing patterns made by hands patient and precise, and imagine families negotiating where the hearth should go, or who would tend the animals that wandered near. Each stone seems alive with memory, whispering stories of daily life, the rhythm of work, the laughter of children, and the gentle murmurs of neighbors trading advice or teasing one another about minor frustrations. Archaeologists still wonder about the exact layout of these settlements, debating which structures served as homes, workshops, or communal spaces, and there's a soothing charm in leaving some questions unanswered, letting imagination wander through the quiet night. A small stream cuts across the valley floor, its water glinting faintly in the soft moonlight. You kneel beside it, letting your fingers trace the cool surface and imagining how vital this water would have been for early communities. Perhaps a child balanced precariously on a stone, attempting to catch small fish, while an elder quietly monitored the effort, the soft murmur of their voice blending with the gurgle of the stream. The thought brings a small smile. Some frustrations and triumphs never change, and laughter has always been an integral companion to survival. Pebbles beneath your fingers carry faint traces of ancient life, hinting at tools, games, or simple markers carved to keep time and memory alive. You follow the gentle incline toward a cluster of low mounds, remnants of early storage or ritual sites. The moon casts long shadows across their surfaces, emphasizing the care with which they were arranged. Dust drifts over your feet, settling on half-buried stones, and you feel the weight of centuries pressing softly into the air around you. You imagine hands shaping earth, stacking stones, and carefully tending to each mound, while neighbors argued quietly about positioning, purpose, or the proper rituals to accompany their construction. There is a subtle humor in picturing the debates, knowing that some things, like human stubbornness and the desire to leave a mark, remain constant across millennia. Further along, the valley narrows into a gentle gorge, where stone walls rise faintly above the ground. You trace your fingers along weathered surfaces, feeling the rough textures and imagining the people who moved them into place, balancing strength with ingenuity. Perhaps they carried water in woven baskets, lifted heavy stones for foundations, or argued quietly about the proper orientation of walls to catch sun and wind. Tiny fragments of pottery and clay scattered beneath your feet glimmer faintly in moonlight, each a miniature story of early life, creativity, and the desire to leave something lasting. Archaeologists still debate how these communities organized themselves, how labor was shared, and which structures held the deepest significance. Standing here, you sense both mystery and intimacy, a quiet connection across time that feels almost tangible. A gentle rise leads to a plateau where faint terraces hint at early agricultural endeavors. You step carefully along the edges, feeling the subtle rise and fall beneath your feet, and imagine families tending crops, observing seasonal changes, and quietly recording cycles of growth. The scent of dry earth mixes with faint herbal aromas, and you pause to inhale deeply, letting the air carry stories of effort, ingenuity, and patience. Somewhere long ago, a child might have traced symbols in the dirt, or someone quietly argued over the most efficient method to water a field. Even small gestures, marking a row of plants, mending a fence, or sharing tools, become part of a larger narrative, echoing softly across centuries. In the center of the plateau, a series of stones arranged in rough circles suggest communal gathering spaces. You step inside one carefully, letting your palms brush over the smooth, worn surfaces, imagining gatherings where stories were shared, lessons were taught, and perhaps soft laughter punctuated the night air. There is gentle humor in picturing someone whispering a complaint about who ate the last piece of bread, or a child dropping a tool and being scolded softly. The ambiguity of these spaces, whether for ritual, trade, or simple conversation, makes them feel alive, filled with possibility and imagination. You breathe slowly, letting the rhythm of the past mingle with your own heartbeat, feeling both small and connected. A narrow path winds along the edge of the plateau, leading to a grove of ancient trees, their gnarled branches casting dancing shadows across the ground. You pause to rest beneath one, feeling the rough bark against your hands and the cool earth beneath your feet. The air is alive with faint nocturnal sounds, rustling leaves, distant bird calls, the soft murmur of unseen water. You imagine people long ago resting similarly, exchanging quiet observations, or perhaps silently reflecting on the day's work, counting livestock, or planning the next season. There's a gentle amusement in picturing minor disputes: who should gather herbs first, or whose turn it is to watch over the fire, going through time in ways both familiar and comforting. Moving onward, you discover a faint depression where water may have collected, now dry, but still whispering hints of past life. You kneel to brush away loose soil, imagining children playing here, creating patterns in the mud, or elders marking the passage of days with subtle symbols. Small stones and pottery shards sparkle faintly in moonlight, evidence of hands that worked carefully to shape and organize their environment. You smile at the thought that even seemingly trivial gestures, placing a stone, etching a line, arranging a patripel through time, leaving echoes that survive centuries, quietly shaping the landscape you now explore. The valley stretches wider as you follow gentle rises and falls, dotted with small mounds, terraces, and stone remnants. Dust drifts lazily across your feet, settling on fragments of walls, hearths, and tools, while the night sky above twinkles faintly, unchanged in its constellations for thousands of years. You pause to lie down, letting the soft earth cradle your body, and imagining the same stars gazed upon by countless generations. The constellations are witnesses, silent and constant, to the unfolding of human curiosity, innovation, and perseverance. The rhythm of life, the blend of labor, play, and quiet reflection, echoes faintly in the gentle night air, connecting you to the earliest people who called this valley home. A gentle stream curves across the valley floor, reflecting moonlight in subtle ripples. You kneel beside it, letting your fingers skim the water and imagining its importance to early communities. Children might have balanced on stones, catching fish or splashing one another, while elders watched patiently, imparting knowledge of the land, the seasons, and the creatures that shared it. Pebbles and small shells glint under your touch, remnants of daily life preserved in quiet detail. Archaeologists still debate the exact extent of these settlements, the methods used to cultivate crops, and the ways communities organized themselves. But standing here, you feel a deep connection to the persistent rhythm of human life, flowing gently across millennia. As the night grows heavier, you wander among faint terraces and mounds, feeling the weight of centuries beneath your feet. Dust drifts over broken pottery, low walls, and depressions in the earth, settling like a soft blanket over the landscape. You pause to trace your fingers over a smooth stone, imagining it once part of a hearth, a wall, or a marker shaped by hands that laughed, argued, and persevered. Somewhere nearby, nocturnal creatures stir, their movements quiet and deliberate, blending seamlessly with the rhythm of the valley. The combination of silence, history, and subtle life forms a gentle lull, a reminder that life, in all its forms, continues quietly, patiently, and with remarkable persistence. You climb gently from the valley floor into a ridge overlooking a broad plain, where the faint outlines of ancient settlements stretch into the distance like soft shadows cast by time itself. The air is cool, carrying the subtle scent of damp earth, clay, and distant herbs, mingled with the dry tang of stone warmed by day and now slowly cooling under the moon. Dust drifts lazily around your feet as you step carefully along worn paths, feeling the smoothness of stones and the unevenness of packed earth beneath your soles. Somewhere in the distance, a faint stream murmurs its quiet song, a persistent rhythm that has existed far longer than any building, tool, or footprint left by humans. You pause for a moment, closing your eyes, letting the wind trace its way across your face, imagining the earliest people wandering these plains, balancing necessity with curiosity, work with laughter, and survival with fleeting joys. The ridge slopes downward into a series of low terraces carefully carved into the hillside, remnants of agricultural ingenuity long forgotten by most. You imagine the earliest farmers meticulously arranging stones, leveling soil, and planting seeds with patience and precision, while children darted around, chasing each other or accidentally spilling water over carefully tended rows. The faint traces of irrigation channels appear like delicate threads, their curves soft but deliberate, guiding water through the terraces with quiet elegance. Archaeologists still wonder whether these channels were designed solely for agriculture or perhaps also for ritual purposes, the lines doubling as both utility and a silent connection to the spiritual world. You smile at the thought of someone centuries ago trying to explain their system to a neighbor, gesturing broadly while the wind carried their words softly across the fields, and perhaps failing only to laugh at the futility later. A narrow path leads you to a cluster of foundations, partially buried by centuries of wind-blown sand and dust. You kneel to brush away a thin layer of dirt, revealing smooth stones arranged in geometric patterns. Perhaps this was a communal house, a workshop, or a place of learning. You imagine hands adjusting each stone, children practicing careful balance, while elders whispered instructions, and neighbors pausing in passing to offer subtle advice or mild complaints. The soft humor of everyday life is evident even now. The occasional fallen stone, the laughter that must have followed, and the careful attention given to ensure structures endured. There is something comforting in imagining that the challenges, errors, and small triumphs of human ingenuity have always been part of our story, unchanged in essence over thousands of years. Moving onward, you find yourself at the edge of a shallow canyon, where layers of sediment reveal the slow passage of time. The rocks here carry faint striations, marking ancient floods, subtle erosion, and the occasional landslide that shaped the very earth beneath your feet. You kneel beside a particularly smooth stone and trace the patterns with your fingertips, imagining early humans observing the land, noting changes, and adapting their settlements accordingly. Perhaps someone centuries ago leaned on this very rock, considering where to plant crops, how to guide water, or which materials to use for shelter. The patience and careful observation required for survival are palpable, almost meditative, and you feel a soft joy in connecting with these rhythms across time. Beyond the canyon, a grove of ancient trees emerges, their twisted roots gripping the soil as if holding centuries of memory within them. The branches sway gently, casting soft, shifting patterns across the ground. You pause beneath one, letting the rough bark press against your hands, and imagine a family resting in the shade long ago, sharing stories, laughter, and quiet lessons about the land, stars, and passing seasons. Perhaps a child etched a pattern into the bark, or an elder marked a date with a careful scratch, and those small gestures have rippled quietly into the present. The grove feels alive, its subtle hum blending with the nocturnal world, a reminder that life, observation, and gentle curiosity have always walked side by side with survival. A faint stream crosses the ridge, glinting under moonlight like a silver ribbon. You follow it carefully, the cool air carrying the faint scent of damp stone and vegetation, imagining generations of humans relying on this water for drinking, cooking, and irrigation. Pebbles glimmer under your fingers, evidence of tools used to grind grain or crush herbs, while small impressions hint at children playing, slipping, or experimenting with balance. Somewhere long ago, someone may have attempted to measure the depth or speed of the current, marking a small observation that might now seem trivial, yet carried practical wisdom and a quiet joy. The mixture of labor and lightheartedness, survival and small amusements, persists through the ages, embedded in the land itself. You wander toward a plateau where the ruins of walls, hearths, and low foundations hint at a larger settlement. The arrangement of stones is deliberate, showing careful planning, while gaps suggest areas where wind or water have eroded the original structures. You imagine residents arranging homes with both pragmatism and care, balancing sunlight, proximity to water, and access to communal spaces. Perhaps a neighbor complained about placement, or a child tripped over a stone, prompting laughter. The rhythms of early life work, play, conversation, and reflection are palpable, quietly echoing in the air as you trace your fingers over the weathered surfaces. Archaeologists still debate the functions of these structures: communal storage, ritual centers, or perhaps a blend of daily life and ceremony. The ambiguity is soothing, letting imagination flow freely while connecting you to the ancient pulse of human life. Ascending a gentle incline, you discover a series of shallow terraces, likely designed for early agriculture or water management. Each terrace is edged with stones worn smooth by centuries of labor and footsteps. You imagine families working together, adjusting soil, planting seeds, and sharing small stories or jokes about who carried too much water or whose crops were tallest. There's a faint humor in picturing arguments about irrigation lines or teasing over misplaced tools, yet all of it underscores the timelessness of human persistence and ingenuity. Dust drifts softly over the terraces, illuminated by the silvery light of the moon, creating a calm, almost magical rhythm that matches your own breathing and footsteps. A narrow path takes you into a grove of small trees where faint impressions of circular stones suggest gathering spaces for stories, songs, or communal decision-making. You step carefully among the stones, feeling the smoothness beneath your palms, and imagine soft voices whispering advice, gentle laughter punctuating instruction, or children sneaking small mischiefs unnoticed. The faint ambiguity of these spaces, their purposes unclear even now, invites you to breathe, imagine, and linger. Perhaps a child carved initials into a stone, or an elder marked a symbol to remember an event. Each gesture, trivial or profound, ripples softly across time, connecting the present to the past in ways subtle yet grounding. Further along, the ridge curves to reveal a shallow depression where water may have pooled, now dry yet still evocative of life long past. You kneel beside it, brushing loose soil with gentle fingers, imagining daily life, washing, collecting, measuring, or simply observing. Tiny pebbles glint faintly, evidence of tools, games, or rituals now forgotten. Perhaps someone once dropped a tool and muttered a quiet curse, a detail now lost but imagined vividly in your mind. The combination of practical survival and gentle humor forms a subtle rhythm, a heartbeat of early life that resonates quietly in your chest. Finally, You reach the edge of the ridge, overlooking the vast valley below, scattered with mounds, terraces, and faint walls. Dust drifts lazily across your path, settling on fragments of stone, pottery, and soil, while the night sky stretches endlessly above, sprinkled with stars, unchanged for millennia. You pause, letting your body relax into the gentle slope of the earth, and imagine generations gazing at the same sky, contemplating cycles of sun and moon, stars and seasons, their lives filled with labor, observation, play, and soft laughter echo faintly in every contour of the land. The quiet persistence of human curiosity, ingenuity, and connection fills you with a profound calm, as though the valley itself exhales slowly, inviting you to match its rhythm, to breathe gently, and to sink softly into the eternal pulse of life. You descend slowly into a wide, shallow valley, where the ground feels soft beneath your feet, and the faint scent of earth and clay drifts gently on the night breeze. The valley stretches quietly, dotted with low mounds, faint depressions, and scattered stones, hinting at settlements long forgotten. Dust curls softly around your ankles as you walk, illuminated by the gentle silver of moonlight, and you imagine early humans moving here, carrying baskets of grain, repairing walls, or arguing over the placement of a particularly stubborn stone. There's a quiet humor in picturing a child slipping in the mud while trying to help, or someone grumbling softly about the persistent stubbornness of their livestock. Every step you take seems to echo through the ages, connecting you with lives long past in a rhythm that is both gentle and grounding. The valley narrows slightly, forming a subtle gorge where the rocks display delicate striations, marking floods, wind erosion, and slow geological shifts over centuries. You kneel beside a smooth stone and let your fingertips trace the patterns, imagining the first humans observing these changes, perhaps deciding where to plant crops or how to guide water. Someone long ago might have leaned against this same rock, contemplating the best way to balance survival with curiosity, while children ran around, making games out of observing insects or collecting pebbles. The practicalities of life, the lessons of observation, and the moments of subtle joy all seem woven into the earth itself. Archaeologists still debate whether such formations were used purely for utility, or whether they also carried spiritual significance, and you smile softly at the possibility that both may be true. A gentle slope leads you toward the remnants of a small settlement where faint outlines of walls and hearths hint at carefully organized homes. You kneel beside a sun-warmed stone, imagining it once forming part of a hearth where early families gathered to cook, share stories, or teach children about the stars. Perhaps someone dropped a cooking tool or spilled grain, prompting laughter or soft admonishment, small gestures that resonate across millennia in the quiet rhythm of human life. Tiny shards of pottery glint under your fingers, each a miniature story of daily life and ingenuity, shaped with care and imagination. The combination of routine, creativity, and gentle humor seems timeless, a thread connecting you to the first communities in this valley. Moving onward, the valley opens into a small clearing where the faint traces of circular foundations suggest communal spaces. You step carefully among the stones, feeling their rough textures beneath your palms, and imagine soft voices gathering here, sharing knowledge, telling stories, or simply observing one another. Perhaps children drew patterns in the dirt, mimicking what elders did, while adults debated quietly over food allocation or the proper alignment of new structures. Archaeologists still wonder if these circles were purely functional or if they also served ritual or ceremonial purposes. Standing here, you let the mystery linger, enjoying the sense that some things are meant to remain quietly unresolved, allowing imagination and presence to fill the gaps. A narrow path winds gently toward a grove of ancient trees, their gnarled roots grasping the soil as if holding centuries of memory. The branches sway softly in the night breeze, casting shifting shadows that dance across low walls and scattered stones. You pause beneath one, feeling the rough bark against your hands, and imagining someone centuries ago resting in the shade, observing the valley, reflecting on the day's work, or sharing subtle wisdom with a younger neighbor. Perhaps a child etched a symbol into the bark, or an elder marked the passing of a season with a careful scratch. The grove seems alive with quiet life, a subtle hum of continuity that carries the pulse of humanity through the night. You continue along the edge of a faint stream, its water shimmering in the moonlight as it winds lazily through the valley. You crouch to trace the surface with your fingers, imagining early humans relying on it for drinking, washing, and irrigation. Pebbles glint faintly, evidence of tools or games, and you imagine the soft laughter of children chasing small fish or balancing precariously on stones. Perhaps someone measured the depth or noted the flow for future planting, quietly observing patterns that would guide generations. The combination of survival, observation, and playful curiosity seems eternal, an undercurrent connecting you to the first communities that shaped this valley. Ascending a gentle incline, you find low terraces edged with stones, likely created for early agriculture or water management. Each terrace shows evidence of careful planning, while small gaps and irregularities hint at adaptations, mistakes, and human humor. You imagine families working together, laughing softly over misplaced stones, or teasing a sibling who carried too much water. The rhythm of life unfolding with patience and creativity. Dust drifts lazily across your feet, catching faint moonlight, and you pause to breathe slowly, letting the quiet night settle over your shoulders as you trace each terrace with your eyes, feeling the pulse of human persistence beneath your feet. In the center of the ridge, circular stones suggest gathering spaces where stories, advice, and gentle debates were shared. You step among them, feeling their worn surfaces, and imagine soft conversations punctuated by laughter, minor complaints, or playful mischief. Children may have drawn patterns in the dirt, imitating adults' actions, while elders guided quietly, sharing knowledge without the need for urgency. The ambiguity of these spaces is comforting. You are invited to imagine, breathe, and linger, sensing the presence of countless hands, voices, and quiet laughter that once filled the air. The ridge eventually descends toward a gentle valley where mounds and depressions hint at storage sites, workshops, and homes. Dust drifts across broken pottery, stone fragments, and shallow depressions, creating a calm, almost magical atmosphere under the moon's glow. You pause to touch a smooth fragment of clay, imagining someone long ago shaping it carefully, hoping it would serve their family well, perhaps spilling some grains in the process, or chuckling at an unexpected mishap. These small, intimate traces of daily life persist quietly, their significance amplified by the calm night air and the subtle hum of nocturnal creatures moving unseen among the ruins. Further along, the landscape widens to reveal terraces, low walls, and faint channels suggesting water management and early farming. You follow the contours slowly, letting your hands brush over the stones, imagining families discussing where to plant crops, how to distribute labor, or sharing quiet jokes about spilled water or stubborn animals. The wind carries the faint scent of earth and clay, and you pause to inhale deeply, letting the atmosphere of centuries settle around you. There is humor, creativity, and persistence embedded in every ridge and terrace, a soft testimony to the enduring rhythm of human life. Finally, you reach the edge of the valley, overlooking the expanse of mounds, terraces, and scattered foundations, all bathed in soft moonlight. You pause, lying gently on the earth, feeling it mold beneath you as the cool night air brushes your skin. The stars above are unchanged, silent witnesses to millennia of human endeavor, observation, and curiosity. You imagine generations of people watching the same sky, counting seasons, predicting weather, and sharing stories. The quiet persistence of human ingenuity, laughter, and daily life resonates softly through the valley, and you feel yourself connected, grounded, and gently soothed by the timeless rhythm of civilization unfolding beneath and around you. You wander into a narrow canyon where the stones rise like quiet sentinels, their surfaces etched with faint marks that might have been left by wind, water, or human hands long ago. The air is cool, and carries the subtle scent of damp stone, mingling with the faint aroma of moss and dry earth. Dust swirls gently around your feet as you move slowly, your fingertips brushing the rough surfaces, feeling the memory embedded in each groove and indentation. You imagine someone centuries ago climbing this same path, carrying clay or grain, pausing to catch their breath, and laughing softly at a companion's clumsy stumble. The simple humor of daily life and the persistence of human endeavor resonates across the centuries in the quiet night air. A faint stream curves through the canyon floor, its water whispering over pebbles and smooth stones. You kneel beside it, letting your fingers skim the surface, imagining early humans relying on it for drinking, washing, or irrigation. Children might have splashed playfully, while adults observed quietly, marking the passage of seasons with subtle scratches on stones or patterns in the dirt. Archaeologists still wonder about the full extent of life here, how settlements were organized, which structures were homes, and which served ceremonial purposes. You smile softly at the thought that some mysteries are meant to remain unresolved, allowing your imagination to wander gently through the quiet spaces left behind. As you follow the canyon upward, low terraces emerge, edged with smooth stones, faint reminders of early agriculture. You walk carefully along these terraces, feeling the earth's subtle rise and fall beneath your feet, imagining families planting seeds, adjusting irrigation channels, and sharing quiet moments of humor over spilled water or stubborn tools. The wind carries the soft hum of the nocturnal world, rustling leaves and stirring loose dust, and you feel a deep calm settle over you. Each stone and ridge seems to whisper tales of effort, care, and human ingenuity, reminding you that survival has always been intertwined with creativity and gentle humor. A cluster of circular stones suggests a communal gathering space, faintly outlined against the valley floor. You step among them, letting your hands glide over the smooth surfaces, imagining stories being shared, advice passed quietly, and laughter punctuating soft discussions. Perhaps a child traced playful patterns in the dirt, or an elder quietly marked the passing of a season. The ambiguity of the space is comforting. It allows you to linger in imagination, connecting the present to the long continuum of human presence. The soft humor of small disputes, minor mistakes, and playful tricks feels timeless, echoing gently in the quiet canyon air. Beyond the gathering space, you notice low foundations, hinting at homes, workshops, and storage pits. Dust drifts across broken pottery, smooth stones, and shallow depressions, illuminated by the pale light of the moon. You kneel to touch a shard of clay, imagining someone centuries ago shaping it carefully, hoping it would serve a family, spilling grains or chuckling at an unintended mishap. The rhythm of daily life work, play, observation, and gentle humor resonates quietly, a heartbeat that threads through the landscape and reaches into the present. The canyon seems alive, holding whispers of hands, voices, and small actions that shaped the land with care. A narrow path winds through a grove of ancient trees, their roots gripping the soil tightly, their branches casting soft, shifting shadows across scattered stones. You pause beneath one, letting the rough bark press gently against your hands, imagining families resting here long ago, sharing quiet conversations, laughter, and subtle lessons about life, land, and survival. Perhaps someone carved a small symbol in the bark, marking a day or event, a gesture now lost to history, yet preserved in your imagination. The grove seems to breathe softly, its quiet presence a gentle reminder that human curiosity and creativity are eternal companions to patience and observation. The path leads to a shallow terrace where irrigation channels faintly curve through the earth, evidence of early agricultural ingenuity. You trace their contours with your eyes, imagining families coordinating the flow of water, planting seeds, and laughing softly over small mishaps. Dust drifts over your feet, settling like a soft blanket, and the night feels expansive, calm, and almost meditative. The terraces, channels, and faint walls speak to a rhythm of life, both practical and gentle, an enduring testament to early human creativity. A small stream emerges at the terrace's edge, glinting faintly in moonlight. You crouch beside it, letting your fingers skim the cool surface, imagining children playing, elders observing, and tools carefully placed to shape daily life. Perhaps a small fish startled someone, prompting a soft exclamation and laughter, a minor yet timeless human moment. The water's murmur, combined with the soft nocturnal hum of insects and wind, creates a lullaby of the past, connecting your presence to the generations that once moved here, quietly shaping the land and leaving traces still visible in the calm moonlight. As you move further, the valley opens into a broad terrace, dotted with foundations and scattered stones. You step carefully, brushing fingers over smooth surfaces, imagining families arranging their homes, debating placement, and sharing small joys or frustrations. Perhaps someone tripped on a stone, eliciting quiet laughter, or an elder gently scolded a child while offering guidance for the future. Archaeologists still debate the precise layout of these settlements and the purposes of many structures, and you find comfort in leaving these questions unresolved, allowing your imagination to fill the spaces with gentle curiosity. Finally, you pause atop a gentle rise, looking across the canyon and terraces below. Dust drifts lazily over stones and mounds, illuminated softly by the moon, while the distant hum of nocturnal life fills the air. You lie down on the earth, feeling its cool, soft surface mold to your body, and gaze at the stars above, unchanged for millennia. Generations of humans have observed this same sky, marking seasons, counting days, and sharing stories. The gentle persistence of human curiosity, creativity, and small humor resonates softly through the night, reminding you that life has always unfolded with patience, ingenuity, and quiet joy. The final stretch of your journey carries you into a broad valley where faint ruins, low walls, and scattered foundations blend seamlessly with the soft contours of the land. Dust drifts gently in the night air, settling over stones and fragments of pottery, and you feel the weight of centuries pressing softly against the present moment. You pause to breathe deeply, letting the cool night air fill your lungs, and imagining families long ago balancing work, play, and reflection with subtle humor and ingenuity. Perhaps a child dropped a tool while attempting to help, prompting soft laughter, or someone quietly corrected a neighbor's placement of a stone, both gestures echoing gently through the centuries. The valley feels alive with memory, carrying whispers of human presence and the quiet persistence of life. A narrow stream winds through the valley, reflecting moonlight like a silver ribbon. You follow it slowly, crouching to touch the water, imagining generations of humans relying on it for survival, observation, and gentle enjoyment. Children may have splashed playfully, while adults marked the passage of time, noted patterns in the water, or shared subtle jokes about minor accidents. The water carries both practicality and quiet humor, reflecting the rhythm of life that has persisted across millennia. Each ripple seems to echo faintly with the steps, laughter, and creativity of those who walked this valley long before your arrival. Rising gently along a ridge, you notice the remains of low walls, foundations, and circular stones arranged in ways that hint at communal life. You step carefully among them, letting your fingertips brush smooth surfaces, imagining quiet conversations, shared meals, and gentle disputes over placement or technique. Archaeologists still debate the precise purpose of some of these structures, whether domestic, ceremonial, or multifunctional, but the ambiguity allows your imagination to breathe, filling spaces with stories of patience, subtle humor, and creativity. Perhaps someone long ago carved a pattern into the stone, marking a small event while children played nearby, adding to the gentle rhythm of life. The valley curves softly toward a grove of gnarled trees, their roots gripping the soil firmly as their branches sway in the night breeze. You pause beneath one, letting the rough bark press against your hands, imagining families resting, sharing stories, or observing the stars long ago. Perhaps a child etched a mark into the bark, or someone silently measured the passage of seasons. The grove seems alive, carrying subtle whispers of life, curiosity, and the quiet persistence of human effort. Its presence reminds you that observation, patience, and creativity have always been companions to survival. You wander among terraces and low walls, feeling the subtle rises and falls beneath your feet. Dust drifts softly, settling over fragments of pottery and smooth stones, while nocturnal insects hum quietly around you. You pause to brush your fingers over a shard of clay, imagining someone centuries ago shaping it carefully, hoping it would serve their family well, perhaps spilling grains or laughing softly at an unexpected mishap. The rhythm of life-work play, observation, and humor resonates in the air, a gentle pulse that threads through the valley and connects generations. Following a faint path, you discover shallow depressions and foundations hinting at workshops, storage, or communal spaces. You imagine families coordinating daily tasks, sharing small joys, and quietly negotiating responsibilities. Perhaps a minor dispute arose over a misplaced tool, quickly resolved with a soft laugh, or children experimented with patterns in the dirt. The valley's silence carries these imagined moments as tangible echoes, grounding you in the quiet intimacy of early human life. A gentle rise brings you to the highest point in the valley, overlooking terraces, walls, and scattered foundations that stretch across the land like soft shadows of time. Dust drifts slowly over stones, illuminated by pale moonlight, and you lie down, letting the earth cradle your body. The night air carries the faint scent of soil, clay, and vegetation, blending with the quiet hum of nocturnal creatures. You imagine generations gazing at the same sky, marking seasons, predicting weather, and sharing stories, their curiosity and ingenuity echoing through the landscape with gentle persistence. Finally, as your gaze sweeps across the valley, you feel the enduring rhythm of human life, small triumphs, subtle humor, careful observation, and quiet creativity ching into your chest like a soft lullaby. The ruins, terraces, and foundations hold whispers of countless generations, gently reminding you that life has always been a patient, creative, and persistent endeavor. You close your eyes briefly, letting the stillness, the soft rustle of wind, and the faint sparkle of stars above calm your mind and body. The past has waited this long. It can wait while you rest. Sweet dreams.